G'day everyone, welcome back to this production run 4.5. The reason why it's 4.5 is because I've already filmed production run 5, which is a small stand or a base for a glass little bird. A client wanted a little base made up, so that's what production run 5 is, and that was already filmed before we got the word on the order of 700 bowls. So I just wanted to take the time to quickly say thank you to everyone out there who has supported me and followed me along this journey. And this order is really going to make a huge difference to what I'm going on about and point this in the right direction. So thank you to everyone out there that knows about it, and your support means the world to me. So, all right. An integral part to fulfilling this 700 little bowl order is the bandsaw and chopping up all these little blanks. And I wanted to run through what my bandsaw is, how I take care of it, and an important one is if I had the time again and I was starting from scratch, what would I do? And if you don't have a bandsaw as well. So I'm going to cover through all that stuff, and hopefully it can help you out in your decision making. But the bandsaw is disconnected at the moment and the power is off, so I can sort of show you some stuff and how I take care of it and all the ins and outs pretty much. But I'm not going to show you how to set it up. There's way better videos out there on YouTube that will show you how to set your bandsaw blade up and all the tensioning and stuff like that. So at the moment, this bandsaw here is a 3-phase 5 horsepower bandsaw, and it is fitted with a 3 TPI blade. The reason why I've got a 3 TPI bimetal blade on there at the moment is because I predominantly use this bandsaw for just chopping the pieces into the rough shape. I don't take a lot of time to try and make them into a perfect little round object. I just chop the sides off and get it processed really quickly. This bandsaw blade is a bimetal blade, as I mentioned, and it's a carbon blade with a cobalt front welded onto it, and then the teeth are punched out of that. There's some evidence out there that say that it lasts 2 to 3 times longer, but I have noticed a huge difference when I've used carbon blades in the past and then I use this blade, that it does last a lot longer when I am chopping through a lot of Australian hardwoods. So I do recommend to a lot of my Aussie mates here in Australia, and get a bimetal blade, you'll thank yourself. It is a little bit more expensive, but they just last a lot longer. And I find that I can process material a lot quicker. That edge stays on there a lot longer, and it gets me back to the lathe quicker. So that's what I want to achieve when I'm chopping bits up on the bandsaw. One really important thing that I wanted to talk about is position. And in the workshop, I have the bandsaw obviously in this corner here, but when I'm at the bandsaw, I can see, because this is a big door just here, I open that door up, dust collection goes on and everything like that, and I've got my shelves just here. I've got my shelves just there where I stack and I sort of rack everything up and get it all positioned so I'm ready to go, and then I cart that over to the lathe, so it just speeds up my process, so it makes things really quick. There's 200 little blanks just there ready to rock and roll. But the reason why I've got it positioned here is so I can see, and this is a door just here on my left. I can see, and I've got a really good visual so I don't get startled. Not that, you know, I'm easily frightened or whatever, but it's just a good way of, so you can see who's coming up, and then you control your environment. So you can turn the power off, let it slow down, or you know, hit the brake on your bandsaw, turn the machine off, and that person or whatever you need to do, you're in control of it. You're not having someone walk up behind you and you get, you know, and you've got a spinning blade there that's extremely sharp, and you're not being put in that position is what I'm trying to get at. So having my bandsaw positioned here is I think it's often overlooked, the position of where you put your bandsaw in the workshop. I see a lot of people and their back is to the main workshop, and anyone could walk up around them, or something might, you know, I just have it there, so I've got really good visual, and I learnt that off Glenn Lucas. It's a really good point, I think. So yeah, just consider that when you are positioning your bandsaw in your workshop. So blade selection, I spoke about the bimetal blade, but the less teeth the blade has and the wider the blade has is a rougher, quicker cut. The more teeth is a slower cut, but it also produces a lot more dust on your table and for your suction to collect. So this blade here chops through a lot of hard timber, and I'll put a little rule of thumb on the screen below on teeth selection, but the 3 TPI blade seems to be a very common blade for hardwoods and timber, and the inch thickness. I'm not always chasing a tight radius. Normally I'll just quickly chop up the bits and pieces, and then I sort the circle out on the lathe. So horses for courses in that scenario, if you need a really thin blade because you want to get those nice tight little circles, that's what you go with. But if you want to just quickly rip through your timber and you want to be in more of a production mode, a wider blade, 3 TPI, will just sort that timber out really quickly. So when it comes to changing the blade, you'll know, you'll feel that you're pushing too hard on the piece of timber, and that's what happened with me. I was pushing way too hard, trying to get way too tight of a radius when I could have just sorted that circle out, and inevitably I chopped the end of my finger off. But you will feel it, you'll smell it, you know that the blade isn't cutting efficiently and you're putting way too much mumbo. Who's this? Oh, Reagan. We got little Reagan. Reagan, come here, honey. Reagan, say good day to everyone. Hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Little Reagan just wanted to come in and say hello, didn't you, darling? Hey, hello, everyone. Good girl. Come on. Come on. Oh, she wants to stand in here. And when you have a fresh blade, you'll just take note of how that feels when you're cutting, and then you swap it out, and then it becomes dull, and then you'll notice the difference. I send all my blades away to get sharpened, and anyone in Australia, I get my blades sharpened, and I source my blades from a company called Combined Saw and Knife. They are based here in Brisbane, so anyone out there, I'll put their name on the screen, Combined Saw and Knife. I'm not sponsored by them, but they are a fantastic family-owned business that they've got saw doctors in there, and they are incredibly professional, and they will help you out when it comes to decision making and things like that. And that's how I got onto the bimetal blades, because I was having a lot of trouble getting through our hardwoods, and the blades just weren't lasting as long. And then Liz there put me onto the bimetal blades, so I can't recommend them enough. One other thing that I do, you might have noticed over here on the door, I've written 22.4. That is the last time I changed the blade over, and it'll be due after chopping up some more blanks for a change, for a blade change or a resharpen, send it away. But I write that date there, and I picked that up off my father-in-law, and I don't go by the date, but it's just sometimes when you're chopping up a lot of timber and you have the same blade on for a while, you go, when did I last change that? It's just feeling a little bit dull. And then you can flick the door open and you go, oh, it's been about 4 months since I've changed the blade over. So it's just another little peace of mind or little check that you can have for yourself instead of guessing when was the last time I changed it or whatever. That's just what I do anyway. Like I said, I learned it off my father-in-law. I write the dates on all my oil filters and batteries and things like that, fuel filters. And then that keeps you in check of when you changed your filters over. So it's just another little way that I put the date on, and it helps me out. I've also written there as well the size of my blade, but any good company where you source your blades should keep you on record, and then you know they've got the size of your blade that you need. When it comes to cleaning, after every single time when I'm finished with the bandsaw, I open the doors up, obviously the power is off, disconnected, and the blade has stopped spinning. I clean the whole machine out. I even get that little bristle brush bit on the end of the vacuum and vacuum the wheels off, the crowned wheels, I vacuum as I'm turning it. I also do that to the bottom. I get in around all the bearings and vacuum all them off as well. And I just find that just helps maintain your machine and keep it nice and clean. I chop a lot of greenwood as well. So sometimes I do get gummed up blades, but I haven't had it so gummed up where it doesn't operate. But what I do and what I found that works for me every now and then is when I'm chopping up a lot of greenwood, I get a nice bit of dried, real old dried bit of hardwood, and I push that in and I chop little bits of that. And I've found for myself that that cleans the blade up, and then I get back to chopping up all the greenwood. So give that a go. It might work for you, but it definitely works for me. If you are going to clean the blade, take the blade off and put it in a bucket or a big tub or something like that, and do it in the tub. I have heard of people using like a paint scraper or something like that, and then running the paint scraper up the side of the blade. I don't do that. I just use a bit of hardwood, and that sort of cleans up the blade a bit. Just be careful when doing that with the blade, and to make sure the power's off and everything like that. If you're gonna scrape the side of your blade to clean all the gunk off, because you might upset the teeth set on your blade. As we all know, the teeth are set all the way up the blade or around the blade, and if you hit it too hard, you might upset your teeth settings. So just be careful of that when you are doing it. If you're going to use a scraper or something to clean the gunk off. But I have heard of people doing that, and it works quite effectively. Even just like a little razor blade. Yet again, make sure the power's off, and then clean the side of your blade. But I've never had to do that. I just push a couple of big, real dry, hard chunks of hardwood through, and that sort of cleans up all the gunk off the blade. Even when I am sort of processing along, I check down on the floor, and if there's a bit of dust ending up all over the floor, and I'm halfway through processing a heap of blanks, I turn the machine off, make sure it's all safe, and then I vacuum out the bottom tray. Little Rady's still here mucking around. And then I vacuum out the top as well. So it's just another little thing that I do to make sure it's nice and clean and safe for myself. Radian, what are you doing, darling? When it comes to cleaning the table, well, this is when I first got it. I got an orbital sander, and I put 240 grit on there, and then I ran the 240 grit, then went to 320, and then 600 all over the top of the bandsaw with the vacuum the suction on, and that sort of ripped all the surface rust off and made a really nice, beautiful top. And then I ran over the top of it with this stuff here, this silver glide or whatever it's called, with some steel wool. I'll put the name of it on the screen. And then I massage that all over the top, and that's designed to prevent a really nice friction-free surface, so it's easier to maneuver bits and pieces around on your bandsaw blade, and it just keeps that surface nice and clean for yourself. So, and I also do that on the lathe bed as well. So it just creates that really nice surface, and you're producing less force on cleaning or on chopping your timber up. So when it comes to jigs and speeding up your workflow and making things really repetitive for yourself and easy, is just these templates, and I recommend making them out of ply. This hole up the top here is to hang them on the wooden dowel over on the wall, and I just store all the common sizes of circles that I cut, and the hole in the center is obviously for just marking the center, so when you put it on the wood screw or center your faceplate up or whatever. But have the common sizes cut that you make, and that just makes life a hell of a lot easier for yourself. There's also compasses you can go out and buy. You can also make your own compasses. This is a Stanley compass here, and I have that set to the faceplate, my most common faceplates that I have over there, the 150mm faceplates. So it's 75mm, they're set ready to go at all times. And this one here is obviously when I have those they're just different size pieces, or they have a bit of a whoop-de-doo in it, and that texture the Nico allows me to get down into those valleys and grooves or whatever of the timber. So compass. I've also made jigs, and I made jigs also when I'm processing. And for example, this project at the moment, every piece needs to be around the 50 or 60mm mark before I put it on the lathe, and 100mm wide. So this jig here is 60mm, so when I get a board of timber on there, Raggy's very excited today. So when I get a board of timber, I can put that on there, mark up one side, down the other side. I know that's my thickness, ready to go, cutting into side grain. And then these marks here are 100mm. So I can just lay it on top of the board, and mark my 100mm marks. Happy days, sorted, just feed it through the bandsaw, ready to go. When it comes to keeping your digits away from the bandsaw blade, these are just dowels. This is actually my depth dowel that I use for my depth gauge when I'm turning bowls, and I've just glued a bit of rubber on there, so when I'm pushing pieces through, I can just push that bit with this instead of my finger. So if I was starting again, what would I go out and look for when it comes to a bandsaw? And I'm not trying to tell you what you need or anything like that. This is just personal experience. I had a smaller bandsaw, if you all remember the little Italian bandsaw that I had. Beautiful bandsaw, but horses for courses. It was a bit smaller, it had a small throat, and it didn't have the horsepower to cut through 6-inch Australian hardwood blanks, even when they are green and when it's green timber. So I soon outgrew that very quickly, and it just didn't have the power to cut through the timber. So now I've got this 5 horsepower bandsaw, 3-phase. I find that it just zips through the timber very quickly, but I'm always on the hunt for a bigger bandsaw to get me back at the lathe quicker, because at the end of the day, you want something that's got a lot of power behind it that can just chomp through that timber quick as possible to get you back turning, because that's what we're all here to do. So that's my recommendation, and keep your eye out for a 3 TPI blade, either an inch if you want to just rip through that timber. If they're big blanks, like a 16-inch blank, you can get through and create a radius. But when it comes to a little bit smaller stuff, it's just, you just rip the sides off and then create the circle later on. Just, yeah, keep an eye out on what type of stuff will suit your needs in the future, but that's just my recommendations. When it comes to getting stuff ready to put on the bandsaw, try and process as much of the timber off the blank with the chainsaw before you bring it into the shop. And the reason for that is for 2 things, and it will save you back. So it'll save you from having to pick up those big blanks. It'll make life a lot easier for yourself, because you've chopped a lot of that waste off and gotten it out of your way before you bring it up and put it on your table. The other thing is that it will save, and it will make your blade last a lot longer on the bandsaw as well, because you're having to make less cuts with the expensive blade. And if anyone's tried to sharpen a bandsaw blade before, it can be quite tedious. It can be done, but it's quite a tedious process, and you need to have a good eye for when you're doing it. So that's just my recommendations. Get rid of all that timber off the blank before you bring it into your shop. When it comes to waste, I always have like a little milk crate or a couple of milk crates floating around, and I just chuck all the waste. I have it beside me when I'm chopping, or when I swing these doors open. I have the big ICB cages out the front of the shop, and I just piff the waste into those cages, and then that becomes firewood. So it just increases the sustainability approach of what we do. So it's not just waste, it becomes a reusable fuel to keep your house nice and warm. You can give it to friends and family, you can sell it as well, and then that can help purchase other little bits and bobs for your workshop. So just don't just obviously throw it out, you can always offer it up to people or sell it on. So if you have a chainsaw and you don't have a bandsaw, I'll link this video just here, and that'll help you out if you want to process your timber blanks, getting them ready to put on the lathe until you go out and get yourself a bandsaw, or you might find that set up a little bit quicker and easier. And I definitely found it a lot faster doing that way than using my old Italian bandsaw. So I hope that helps. I hope this video keeps everyone up to date of what's going on, and thank you all so much for watching. I will talk to you all directly. Cheers, bye. Go sort those little kids out. Reagan!